Good afternoon. My name is David Parry. I'm part of the Battle Bus Volunteer Research Team, and it would be great if you could answer some questions for us this afternoon.
My name is David Lawrence. I'm an Honorary Curator and Research Fellow at the London Transport Museum, and I was one of the team that worked on the Goodbye Piccadilly exhibition and Battle Bus project.
Excellent. Thanks for taking the time to answer some questions. First of all, we're sitting on the Battle Bus now. What process did this London bus go through in order for it to become this military vehicle?
When the First World War began to really get going in summer of 1914, it was realised that the horse transport which the British Army had taken to France would be inadequate for the purpose of moving troops around quickly from one battle site to another. Very quickly, the government requisitioned 900 London buses to leave the streets of London and be sent to France to move troops around. So effectively they became military buses. The buses were taken in groups to an area called Grove Park in southeast London. The red paint, which was traditional for many London buses, was covered by a dark green khaki paint, and the buses had some of their windows removed. They were fitted with tools and other equipment and prepared for the long journey to the fighting fronts in France.
Okay, and who were the people interacting with the bus on a daily basis?
So what I'll do first is talk about how they got to France. If
Okay,
that's
that's
fine. Once the buses had been prepared to go to France, they were then driven in convoys to ports such as Avonmouth near Bristol and Southampton, and they were floated on ships over to ports in France. Rouen was one of the big ports where the buses were landed, and then they were gradually moved closer to the fighting lines. At the same time as the buses were being moved to France and Belgium, men were being recruited from the London General Omnibus Company. Men were volunteering from the London General Omnibus Company to go to France and Belgium to drive the buses. It was a very specialist job, and they were effectively taking the buses which they'd used for moving passengers around London to now move men around the fighting areas of France.
And what did the bus mean to people involved in driving the buses, maintaining the buses, and the soldiers being carried on board?
The buses were, whether the buses were red or green, once they went to France, they became very much a reminder of London, of England, and of the country that those soldiers were fighting for. They became an icon of home, they became a reminder of home, and therefore to those men who were ordinary people finding themselves in an extraordinary situation in battle, the London buses were comforting reminders of home, as well as being incredibly necessary people movers. So the buses would work very long days, maybe 23, 24-hour days. They would operate in convoys of up to more than 70 vehicles, moving soldiers from areas behind the fighting lines closer to the fronts, and then the soldiers would get off the buses and walk to the trenches from where they would engage in battle. So the buses played an essential part in moving men and supplies and the wounded and equipment around the battle areas as the fighting fronts fluctuated across the landscape.
What do you think the atmosphere was like for people on these buses? Can we even come close to imagining it?
I think what we have to realise is that the bus was for the time that the buses were in France, they acted as a home from home for the driver and the bus crew. They reminded soldiers also of London. So the bus provided a kind of touchstone for home at the same time as those buses were moving men into battles from which those men might quite well not return. So they might make their last journey on these London buses, which seems incredible to us to think about. These buses were moving around behind the fighting lines, but they would have been within the sound of the guns, the bombs, the explosions, and many buses came back to England after the war bearing the scars of battle, so they were damaged in various ways. So the buses were effectively taking ordinary people into these intensive conflict situations, and I think it's virtually impossible to imagine what it was like, but we can think that these soldiers were going to, most of them would never have left their local areas, so men from Tottenham would never have left Tottenham, and now they were in a strange country, in a strange landscape, moving into a totally unknown and quite likely very frightening situation. And they would have had the sound, the smells and the sights of war, which again would be completely alien to them, and they would be moving towards those battle zones at a top speed of 12 miles an hour.
Wow. Well, David, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.